women empowerment. The Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, projects that if women farmers had equal access to productive resources, their farm yields would increase by 20% to 30%. This could provide food to keep 100 million to 150 million people from going hungry and reducing global hunger by 12% to 17%. I was surprised to learn that 75% of the world's food come from only 12 plants and 5 animal species, making the global food system extremely vulnerable to environmental shocks, such as changing climate patterns and extreme weather events. Small hoarders, small business owners, like small farm workers, our very own MSMEs, who tend to rely on more diverse and climate-resilient crops, represent a sustainable alternative to our current model of agricultural production. So my dear audience, face-to-face, commercial yan sa show ko, face-to-face, and virtual, let us learn from this second forum of the Women's Business Council Climate Change Committee. There will be 2 more, as our MC and moderator Donna has said. There will be 2 more, one in August and one in November, to wrap up this 4 series fora on climate change. Thank you to our Women Biz Board, headed by President Rose Rafael, with ever-energetic Dorothy, our staff. Our almost one-woman dynamic chair event, Chair Chiki Escarialgo. Give her a big hand, she's here. Okay. And of course, to Meralco, our most generous host. May your tribe increase. It gives me also great pleasure to jumpstart this event with a message from no less than our dear Secretary, Maria Antonia Tony Yulo Loizaga of the DENR. Tony, as we fondly call her, was Secretary of DNR appointed in July 19, 2022. She was chairperson of the International Advisory Board of the Manila Observatory and technical advisor for the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation. Likewise, our dear Secretary Tony was member of the Senior Advisory Board of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Command and General Staff College, where she wanted to advance more scientific research on climate and disaster resilience. Graduating for the best university in far from Diliman, from the Ateneo de Manila University, Bachelor of Arts in Political Science with a master's degree in Georgetown University for Government and International Relations. Of course, she used to be known as the wife of former basketballer Chito Loizaga. Now, Chito is known as her husband. Ladies, gentlemen, face-to-face and on virtual, please welcome, with her message, our dear Secretary Tony, Secretary, mother, wife, and protector of the climate universe. Thank you.
Rafael, Women Biz Philippines President. Attorney Lorna Kapunan, our good friend, current Board Director and Chair of the Climate Change Committee, and former Women Biz Philippines Chairperson. Ms. Chiki Escarial-Go, former Women Biz Philippines Chairperson. Fellow speakers and other distinguished guests, good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Women's Business Council Philippines very much for the kind invitation to speak on ways by which we can work together in the areas of climate change, disaster risk reduction, and environmental protection. This administration's agenda of pursuing a blue and green economy and establishing livable and sustainable communities guides the DNR in the fulfillment of our mandate to conserve, protect, restore, and regenerate our country's environment and natural resources, to manage risk and build resilience. We strive to achieve the outcomes of the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, specifically to enhance adaptive capacity and resilience of communities and ecosystems to natural hazards and climate change. We're also accelerating our country's journey to a green and blue economy by adopting geospatial technologies and advanced analytics for the comprehensive risk management of our natural resources and as support to our natural capital accounting systems. We're confronting the climate emergency by intersecting the ecosystem rehabilitation efforts we have with biodiversity conservation, integrated water resource management, waste management, and responsible mining. Our country is constantly faced with the impacts of other hazards and of climate change, and given the interdependent nature of our ecosystems and communities, we must recognize the intersectionality of vulnerability and the different factors that may compound it. Addressing intersecting vulnerabilities require collaboration, convergence, improving governance, and evidence-informed policy and planning. In this slide, the DNR invites the private sector to work with us in implementing pro-people, pro-environment, and science and evidence-based policies and programs, such as: we need your support in the establishing of a national risk register, which can serve as the basis for determining our gaps, needs, and the priorities of our development plans. We also invite you to work with us in the building of the Natural Resource Geospatial Database nationally and the Natural Capital Accounting System. We are reviewing our environmental laws and applying a comprehensive risk lens. We would highly value your expert insights and eventual alignment of investments to address complex, compounding, and cascading risk, but also new opportunities. We wish to continue to mainstream climate and disaster resilience, hopefully in your core business value cycles. We can collaborate on prioritizing and accelerating the adoptions of nature-based solutions that result in co-benefits to climate action and disaster risk reduction. Sixth, we wish for your support on the conservation and enhancement of our forests and mangrove areas. Seventh, please join us in our push for the circular economy, especially on the implementation of the Extended Producer's Responsibility Law among your corporations and by implementing your own solid waste management systems. 8, we urge you to collect rainwater when you can and recycle and reuse water in order to help our water-stressed communities and cities. The DNR is transforming the way we work. However, we cannot do this alone. President Marcos has said, the preservation of the environment is the preservation of life, and this statement reflects the need for a whole-of-government and whole-of-society approach in this volatile, complex, and uncertain world. We need to build synergies across all sectors through continuous dialogue and evidence-informed action, and we've laid the foundation for this through regional multi-stakeholder consultations and expert dialogues and conversations such as these. Plus, the creation of the Multi-Sector Advisory Council composed of expert practitioners and corporate partners. We believe that these synergies will accelerate and enhance the delivery of our core mission. In these consultations, women have emerged as critical actors and active change agents. We therefore need to work together to ensure that we create an enabling and empowering space for all women in our fields of work and ensure that their participation is both meaningful at all levels of decision-making. Just to share with you, the DNR's gender and development programs seek to ensure full participation of women in the promotion of sustainable development and that women equally enjoy and benefit from the fruits of ENR, or Environment and Natural Resource Development and Management. We strive to go beyond mainstreaming GAD in the DNR's policies and programs, and in fact, as some of you may know, in financing gender-inclusive development, we are mandated by law to budget 5% of our entire department's budget towards gender-responsive activities. The PDP, or the Philippine Development Plan itself, emphasizes the need to invest in women and invest in their resilience and protection. Before I close, allow me to say that the intersectionality of vulnerability I mentioned earlier represents the complexity of women's exposure and vulnerability, especially to the impacts of hazards that are associated with climate change and other natural hazards as well. Intersectionality means that women's multiple social roles, especially as regards their gender, their age, their income status, and possibly disability or capability, are all intersecting in ways that make them both vulnerable but also create new opportunities for resilience among women. We are the traditional copers in our family systems. We must also be the change agents in adaptation and disaster risk reduction for all of society. In closing, the Women's Business Council Philippines has always been a valued partner of the government since its creation in 1997, and we at the DNR look forward to working with you as we continue to strengthen women's participation and leadership in our country's pursuit of inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development. Our mission is not easy, but the DNR is committed to continuing being the champion of environmental integrity while working with women leaders in the private sector and the public sector in advancing economic and social progress for all. Thank you once again to Attorney Lorna Kapunan for this kind invitation, for reaching out to us. We are here to be of service to you and your organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Attorney Kapunan and DENR Secretary Tony Yulo Loizaga. And the fact that everybody's here today on Zoom and here is already a start of that collaborative experience that we're having, as Secretary Loizaga pointed out. So if you're collecting rainwater at home, check. If you're listening today here and choose to collaborate further with us, check. And there are 6 more, and we will listen to that in a little bit. And with that, let's jump right into our forum for this afternoon, entitled Everything You've Always Wanted to Know and Why You Should Care About Climate Change, Sustainability, and Impacts. Don't worry, that will be broken down. If God created the heaven and the earth in 7 days, I'm sure we won't be able to complete that in 7 days. But the next 2 hours at least is a start with that. One of our invited guests, Attorney Oposa, is unable to join us due to a medical situation, which he assures us is not as critical or as endangered as the environment. He allowed us to share this 1.5-minute video he made with some of his own artwork as backdrop. On the basics, we may have forgotten about our environment, land, air, water, the law of life. Please play video.
The law of life. What is the environment? Is it about the birds and the bees, and the flowers and the trees? Or is it about life and the sources of life, of land, air, and water? The trees and the forests are the heart and the lungs that give us air to breathe. The land and the soil are the skin and the flesh that give us food to eat. The sea and the rivers are the blood and bloodstreams of life that give us water to drink. They are the vital organs of life on earth. Land, air, and water. The law of life.
Thank you, Attorney Oposa, and we hope you get well soon, for reminding us that our environment is not just a safe or a place, it is our life support system, and the quality of our environment gives us the quality of our lives. And with that to reflect on, let's do a deep dive into what climate change is all about, and especially in the context of solid waste management. Our next keynote speaker for today is currently teaching at the UST Faculty of Arts and Letters and is a professorial lecturer at the UST Graduate School. Her areas of specialization are environmental management, sustainable development, climate change, disaster risk and humanitarian communication, as well as governance and sustainability and research methods. As a researcher, her areas of interest are zero-waste cities and islands, sachet studies, estuarial studies, and street children. An active NGO worker, she is president of the Mother Earth Foundation, auditor of the Philippine Society for the Study of Nature, and former vice president of the Philippine Network for Environmental Educators. To talk about climate change and solid waste management, friends, a big hand for Dr. Arlen Ancheta.
Makakalikasang hapon po sa ating lahat. Good afternoon. My topics this afternoon are realities we often complain: solid waste and climate change. In fact, they are two complex problems. We associate waste with clogging, flooding, burning. We complain about heat index or frequency of typhoons to climate change. But did we ever reflect at how our lifestyles complicate the things we complain about? So my presentation this afternoon are stories of extraction, production, consumption, and disposal. Solid waste, anything we discard after using. Solid waste begins at home. It started as a household problem, but mismanagement on disposal went beyond the family members. We have accumulated so many commodities that we cannot control where to put them. Now, as a major environmental problem, it is a source of marine litter, pollution, and source of methane gas absorbing heat. Climate change is the long-term shift in temperature and weather patterns. It is a natural phenomenon, but then during the Industrial Revolution, human activities became drivers of changing climate. And so it became a global issue related to disturbing weather patterns. It's about vulnerabilities of communities. Climate-related disaster, it's about food insecurity, safety and health insecurity, and if unchecked would lead to environmental collapse. Now, what do they have in common? Their common theme is take, make, and waste. So both are involved in the story of the linear flow of extraction, production, consumption, and disposal. So let's take a look at the linear flow of waste. For example, plastic. So plastic is a byproduct of petroleum. It is an extractive industry. And so we take it, resource extraction. Then the polymers, we produce, distribute it in the different areas consumed by people, and then eventually dispose. So take, make, and then eventually dispose. Now, what about linear flow of utilizing fossil fuel related to climate change? So again, in climate change, the main variable is fossil fuel. So we make use of petroleum, gas, and then coal as extractive industries, used for electricity, used for transportation, for industries, and then the byproduct is carbon dioxide that would absorb atmospheric heat and then would lead to rising seas or wild weather. So linear flow of utilizing fossil fuel. Okay. Okay. So what's the story behind take, make, and waste? Right. Now, first let's take a look at the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is composed of the troposphere and the lower level, and then the stratosphere, and then the ionosphere. So there are several layers in the atmosphere. Now, under normal condition, the placement of gases in the lower atmosphere is basically 78% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, and 0.93% argon, and small traces of carbon dioxide, methane, and then krypton, and then neon, and other small traces of greenhouse gases. So during the Industrial Revolution, fossil fuel was used to run industries, transportation, electricity, and basically because of human activities, this was followed by economic development. On the other hand, on the lower level, so solid waste is related to commodification as a way of life. We buy things to satisfy our needs and wants, but we do not think of the impact of the commodity we buy on the environment. We easily discard them, not knowing that they stay in the environment beyond their use. Example is plastic. And basically, when we talk of plastic, it comes from non-renewable resources. Pag naubos, wala na. And the product is non-biodegradable, hindi nabubulok. And so this led to the overflowing of landfill that emits gas harmful to the environment. So due to economic development and rapid urbanization, this led to the excessive extraction of fossil fuel and gas emission, and accumulation of waste and also gas emission. So both would include gas emissions. Now, and what are these harmful gases? So one is carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuel and deforestation. Another one is methane from landfills or from stock enteric fermentation. And the other one is nitrous oxide from agriculture, fertilized soil, and animal waste. So the industrial sector emits carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide, whereas mismanaged solid waste would emit methane. Now, what are the implications of this in the troposphere? So in picture A, you have natural greenhouse effect, where the composition of the troposphere is basically nitrogen, oxygen, and small traces of greenhouse gases. But then, emission of greenhouse gases in the troposphere changed the landscape of gases, absorbing more heat from the sun. And so, well, of course, we need solar radiation to sustain life on Earth. And then this solar radiation is re-radiated heat back to space. So there is less re-emitted heat on the surface of the Earth. But due to picture human-enhanced greenhouse effect, there was the excessive emission of carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane in the atmosphere that changed the composition of the gases. And so now we have more carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide in the troposphere, trapping more heat energy, increasing global temperature. And so less heat escapes into space. At the same time, it increases global temperature, affecting water cycle, precipitation, rain or rainfall, wind pattern, and snow that lead to changing weather patterns. It intensifies typhoons, frequency of typhoons that leads to disaster. And so the interconnectivity between mismanaged waste and changing climate. So mismanaged solid waste, the excessive and careless disposal of single-use plastic in the environment increase the emission of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, intensifying climate change. For climate change, these gases absorb more heat, changing weather patterns, lead to more violent weather disturbances, stronger typhoons, storm surges, natural hazards turning into disaster. And so, in relation to this, what's the danger of methane in solid waste mismanagement? It is responsible for more than 25% of the global warming we are experiencing today. Due to its structure, methane traps more heat in the atmosphere per molecule than carbon dioxide, making it 80 times more harmful than carbon dioxide for 20 years after it is released. And so this is now the interconnectivity of solid waste and climate change. You know? So we just take our garbage for granted. We don't segregate waste. But then we do not realize the implication of this in the gas landscape in the troposphere. So the impact of climate change and mismanaged waste would lead to environmental insecurity. Disasters, agriculture, fisheries are basically disturbed by flooding, typhoons, would lead to food insecurity and water availability. Now, ways forward from linear flow to circular flow. One is we have to strengthen institutional arrangements. So we have this Climate Change Commission in the Philippines. We have a law on waste management, RA 9003, which is ecological solid waste management. And then for the local government unit, they have to submit their 10-year solid waste management plan. The Philippines' participation in the Global Dialogues on Climate Change in the Conference of Parties. And then a part of strengthening institutional arrangements is participation in information, education, and communication activities like this forum, or joint community development services for the students, or corporate social responsibility activities for industries. So more collaborative activities between LGUs and the civil society. So from linear flow of waste management to circular flow of waste management. So we have here extraction, production, distribution, consumption, but it does not go straight to the landfill. There are interventions along the way, like reuse, repair, recycle, and then you have the recycling sector. So this would then reduce the garbage in the landfill. We have to be selective in using commodities. We have to reduce the use of fossil fuel-based product. We have to practice reuse, refill, repair, recycle, and compost as a way of life. And then as part of RA 9003, each barangay should have a material recovery facility. So establish material recovery facility in the community to further reduce waste. Now the goal of circular flow waste management is to divert waste from the landfill. Now, what about the use of fossil fuel? So now we have to shift to the use of renewable source of energy and less dependent on fuel. So the use of renewable resources, so divert dependency on fossil fuel-based source of energy. Now we have solar panels, and then hydroelectric power from rivers and our lakes. Then we have our wind farms and the use of geothermal energy. Then another way of moving forward is also promoting zero waste practices. And I can mention the city of San Fernando in Pampanga as a zero waste model city. where the local government used top-down approach, that is a full support from the city government, and then the establishment of material recovery in all the barangays in the city, then this bottom-up approach from the communities where they segregate waste, segregated collection, and then further reduction in the material recovery facility. Now, they also have this refill revolution, and basically they have high waste diversion from the landfill. So we have here picture of MRF in Barangay Malpitic, City of San Fernando, and then a material recovery in a private subdivision, giving lectures to the DNR employees on waste segregation in their area. Now, this is the refill activities in the same cities. So they have this partnership with their local manufacturers, and they sold these commodities to the people in San Fernando, where the consumers, the buyers, will bring their own refillable containers. Then during the Earth Day, they have this break free from plastic activity. So what they did was to exchange the plastic container or the plastic bags of the consumers in the city market into eco bags. Well, small initiatives in the city, but they continue to practice zero waste. And then in the case of Mother Earth Foundation, well, we have this Zero Juana Express store where we partner with the local sari-sari stores. And this is to provide alternative way of selling basic commodities in small amount using refillable containers instead of buying in sachet. Okay. So it's still in the initial stage, but we set up a sari-sari store in Navotas, and initiatives are also being set up in Siquijor Island. Now, we need to work together, not relying on the government alone nor dependent on civil society. There has to be a hand-in-hand partnership, collaboration in reducing the emission of greenhouse gases. There are countless initiatives on ecological solid waste management and climate action. But then, as stewards of the environment, we have a responsibility to participate in these endeavors. And may I ask, what is your participation? May this gathering be an eye-opener to all of us. Problems are interrelated, and we have to view them on a larger picture, find our niche where we can help, support, or facilitate solutions to release the burden for environment. We have to value what we have and reflect on how to limit our consumption to what we need. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Arlen, for that very comprehensive talk. So, mga taga FB and Zoom, and of course our live audience, ang tanong ni Dr. Arlen, what is your participation? Well, we're here participating, and she mentioned a lot of tips here, but siguro I'll share. She talked about methane. So, sino dito na ang vegetarian? That's a little bit too extreme, but apparently the cows produce a lot of methane. So, for our students out there, if you can sacrifice and eat a little bit more local, I have to say local vegetables, kasi if it's imported, it travels and it's transported, so that's a lot of carbon as well. So listen to your parents and at least sacrifice one meal for local vegetables. Masarap sila. Yun. Okay. Hindi counted po yung yung French fries. So from climate change, we now go to biodiversity and habitats. Our next speaker has been part of the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines since 2008, where she served as Vice President in the Executive Committee and as Chairperson of the very important Records Committee. The Records Committee serves as the repository of bird sightings in the country, which is why the Wild Bird Club is the go-to organization of the government when they need to understand the effect of infrastructure and other developments in the environment, as the presence of birds or environmental indicators. She also represents the Philippines in international bird fairs, where she shares the work done by WBCP, such as the Asian Waterfowl Census, a survey of water birds being done in various areas in the country, some since 2011. As Philippine representative, she holds the Philippine flag up high when it comes to letting the world know of the beauty and rich diversity of Philippine birds. Friends, a big hand for Cristina Tingay Cinco.
Hello and good afternoon. Magandang makakalikasang hapon sa inyong lahat. Okay, let us start with the Philippines, an avian archipelago. Next slide, please. Okay, just for your information, Women Biz holds the honor of me revealing the 2023 Philippine bird list. We haven't really published this. We're going to publish this still in July. And good news, we have 735 species of birds already. When we started with the book by A Guide to Philippine Birds, Birds of the Philippines by Robert S. Kennedy, there were only something like 572 birds listed. Okay, so now we are at 735. Of course, our pride is the 35% of this are endemics, though. So now what I wanted to tell you is the importance of data. Data is very important because this is where they base the health of the environment. So that is one thing I'm so proud of now, being chair of the Records Committee for the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines, because we have historical data dating back to the 1800s up to the present. So if you feel that your Maya is missing from your backyard, then do please approach us. Next slide, please. Okay, this is something like I wear as a badge of honor when I go abroad. Our country is one of the highest in numbers in terms of endemicity. We are number 3 in terms of biodiversity, endemic biodiversity, meaning flora and fauna that we have here. One thing I should say, this is protected by law also, Republic Act 9147, which says that we have to protect our flora and fauna, not for our generation, but actually for the future generations to come. That's why we have very stiff penalties when it comes to illegal pet trade. What else? I'm looking at Dr. Arlan because she might go like this and I'm saying something wrong. But this is something that I really feel proud of, that we're number 3 in the world. And there are only 17 countries with a high density of endemicity. One is Indonesia, which is, I don't really know how big it is, but it's really huge. Second, we've heard of the Amazon in Brazil. So imagine our country, such a tiny island state, islands, states, in the middle of the Pacific, we are number 3. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I asked before I made this slide to make the general public understand what we're doing. So Chiki said, okay, highlight, birds that we can be proud of. Ipat, who is a good friend from the club, she said, show them the wow birds. And these are some of the wow birds. These are the Philippine birds of praise. When you go to the provinces, all of these are called the Philippine eagle. Okay? You ask them, ito, Philippine eagle to. Okay, so this is it. Did you know that the Philippine falconet is the smallest raptor in the world? Okay, so it's really very small. And yet, it's from the family of eagles. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here we come, the star of the show. When I was just, I like telling stories about my encounters with, mostly with people abroad. Did you know that the sister of the emperor, of the then emperor Akihito, wanted to come to the Philippines to see the Philippine eagle? But the Japanese government freaked out. Because how will they secure her? You see this in the mountains of Mindanao. Or, in the Sierra Madres, where there is a high incidence of insurgency. But at least, when I'm in Japan, I go like, okay, what do you have? I have the Philippine eagle. But, most of the Japanese, that is their dream bird. It used to be mine, because I said, okay, I'm not really such an adventurous birder. I'm a dude birder. And I guess USEC CP knows what a dude birder is. He's smiling. A dude birder is somebody who doesn't want to walk, doesn't want to be under the heat of the sun. But by chance, I saw the Philippine eagle in Davao. Okay? And this is related to Dr. Arlen's lecture on climate change. Why? This was in 2013. It showed up in my Facebook. It was May 13, 2013. Typhoon Sendong just happened in Mindanao. And I saw the devastation. It was terrible. Because we took a land trip from Bislig in, okay, help me here. From Bislig to Davao. And practically all the highway was strewn with logs. Okay, so these were cut logs. It wasn't the typhoon that uprooted the trees. It was, illegal logging, simply. And these were huge. So fellow WBCP member, Pete Simpson, brought us to Mount Tolomo. Mount Tolomo is one of the smaller volcanoes of Mount Apo. I forgot the name of the other one, pero it's like the daughter, the son of Mount Apo. So my ability is only up to Mount Tolomo, and Pete knew that. So while resting before our descent, so we've reached somewhere closer to the peak, only for the cryptic flycatcher. I just wanted to see the flycatcher. But lo and behold, Pete said, okay, let's stay under the shade. Let's take our break. And I said, there's a Philippine serpent eagle. And I went, Philippine serpent eagle, because I've seen them all over from Luzon to most of the places. Pete got alarmed. He said, there are no Philippine serpent eagles here. So he took his binoculars and spotting scope. Lo and behold, we saw the Philippine eagle. Philippine eagle ticked near Mount Tolomo. And if you want to know the location, it's near Eden Resort in Davao. And that is in the heart of the city. I mean, not the heart, but it's in Davao City. And it's quite significant because today is also the anniversary of the discovery of the Philippine eagle, June 15, 1896, okay, let me look at my notes. I'm getting nervous here. By John Whitehead. Okay, John Whitehead. He was the explorer who discovered the Philippine eagle, not in Davao, not in Luzon, but in Samar. Okay, at Paranas, no? And this is called the Taft Nature Reserve. So you see, you learn so many things. It is critically, definitely critically endangered. But over the years, we've heard that, the numbers are slowly increasing. Why? They're monogamous. Okay, so if Filipinos probably were monogamous, we wouldn't have the population problems right now, right? Okay, they are monogamous. So if either of the couple will die, they said they still look for a mate, but it takes quite some time. And they're very territorial. It takes them like a minimum of 75 square kilometers to 133 square kilometers. And the reproductive cycle is like 2 years. So eventually, father and son will have to fight over the territory. Okay? And the range is from 0 to 1,800 meters above sea level. So I really saw it, and it was like a religious experience. It's from the mountains down to the Davao Gulf and back. And I thought I would never see the Philippine eagle in my lifetime because, of stories you hear from Bukidnon. You have to ride a horse, you get all this linta. What's linta? Leeches. What else? There's a ghost at the Del Monte Lodge, that walks in the middle of the night. I said, no way. And you have to wear boots because, it's practically the mud is waist deep. And I said, no more. I'll just dream about it, watch the video. But, I was fortunate to see the Philippines because of climate change. They said that, the observers from Bukidnon said that the pair of Philippine eagle that used to be in Bukidnon transferred. I mean, they flew. It's very close to Davao. And my cousins who go, they said they go eagle watching. They don't call it bird watching. It's in the Budaco area, Bukidnon, Cotabato, Davao area. So there, that's my treat for you for the Philippine eagle. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we have the doves and the pigeons. The Luzon Bleeding Heart, I have to mention this, is our logo. Some thought of it as like the dolphin, but no, it's the the Luzon Bleeding Heart, because it's the flagship bird of Philippine conservation movement. It was, I think, suggested by Dr. J.C. Gonzalez, and you can still see the Luzon Bleeding Heart actually in UP Los Baños of all places. So you see, we're very rich in all these things. The other bleeding hearts are critically endangered. The Mindoro, the Sulu, and Negros bleeding hearts. Because like the Sulu bleeding heart, there are only 50 individuals left in the wild. So that's a food for thought. Next, please. Okay, Philippine owls. I think you can relate the Philippine owls with the manananggal. Really, I think that's what they think in the provinces. Like when I saw the Philippine eagle owl, it really looked like a manananggal. Because it goes like this, they sway, and it's dark, and they have this very low sound. So probably they thought they're seeing or spirits, but actually it's the Philippine eagle owl. It's huge. And of course, I had access to this, and you can probably see it. It's only at the MWSS compound in Quezon City by Manila. Wonderful, right? So we see all these rare birds. They're actually rare. Foreigners really fly to the Philippines just to see this owl. And it's found in the owls of the world because we have 24 and there are only more than 250 owls in the world. See, this tiny country has 10% of all the owls in the world. Okay, next slide, please. Ta-da! Another favorite of mine, the hornbills. There are 62 hornbills species in the world. 32 of them in Asia. It's divided. 32 in Asia, 30 in Africa, 11 in the Philippines. So can you imagine we have 1/3 of all the owls in Asia. And the most, one of the most critically endangered hornbill is the Walden's hornbill. This can be found in the Panay mountain ranges, in the forest. Because when I spoke to one of the conservation societies in, that's Panay, the Panay Island, there are only 7 left. But, we take their word for it because nobody of us saw how it looked like. So, okay, you said it's 7, we'll take it as 7. And then they are the alarm clocks of the forest because at exactly 6 o'clock, they make noise. At exactly 12 o'clock, noon, they make noise. And at exactly 6 p.m., they make noise. They are also dubbed as the farmers of the forest. Why? Because they spread the seeds, from the fruits that they eat. And of course, one thing, again, I want to emphasize about the breeding habits of the hornbills is that if all Filipino men were like the hornbills, I don't think we have a gender problem. Because hornbills, when after mating, the female is enclosed in the trunk of a tree. Okay, they build a hole, and then the male will seal this with mud, So, okay, female, you stay inside and lay your eggs. And then the female, like all of the mothers, will build the nest, slowly plucking out her feathers. Okay, when it's time that, she lays her eggs and the chicks are hatched, the male hornbill will bore a hole, only enough for the beak, to enter and feed the female. So, diba? I mean, if we have all these conscientious males feeding the females and their family, we wouldn't need family lawyers. I think. What's your opinion, Attorney Lorna? Yes, exactly. Thank you. Okay, and my next wow bird. I'm happy to say that my Kingfisher's checklist is almost done. And I'm happy also to tell you that my list is getting longer without me going out birding because they're splitting our species. It takes some time to check their genetic makeup. So, there's the northern kingfisher, the northern silvery, and the southern silvery kingfisher. And there's the northern spotted and the southern spotted. And I've seen all of those. One interesting trivia about the kingfisher is that, did you know that? Okay, 15 minutes, the mom in 2 minutes, I'm done. Okay, she said 15 minutes, okay? So once trivia that's very good to know about the Kingfisher is that the Japanese bullet train was designed after them. Okay, in terms of the aerodynamics design, it's taken after the Kingfisher. And it's also for fuel efficiency. So you see, birds really do inspire technology. And the Japanese, I have to envy. Like, if we only have one bird club in the Philippines, I think they have 1,000. Every barangay, every street has a society of bird watchers. And then, of course, we have the Philippine parrot. Next slide, please. Okay, the Philippine cockatoo. Now, before, this species was found all over the Philippines. But it is such a beautiful bird that it was illegally traded. Even in Palawan, if they catch one, it's 30,000. Now, if you're poor and you live in the forest, 30,000 sounds like 1 million, right? I mean, it's money. But at least now, it has reached something like 200 individuals. So it's also critically important. And the breeding place in Rasa Island off Nara, Palawan, is a sanctuary. Actually, you cannot go there, when it's the breeding season. And we all know that Palawan is a hot spot for all these mines. So at least, there's a saving factor that they are very protective of the cockatoo. Next slide, please. Okay, my favorite topic is the migratory birds, our migratory birds. Next slide, please. So what am I showing you? It's the map of the East Asian Australasian flyway, tongue twister, right? We have 9 major flyways in the world, and the Philippines is right smack in the center of the East Asian Australasian flyway. There are 50 million migratory birds that use this bird highway, coming from Siberia, Alaska. Okay, take note, Alaska used to be part of Russia. So it sounds American, but it's generally in the Russian area. Goes down to East Asia, China, Japan, and then down to the Philippines before it reaches Australia. So it's a cycle, no? At onset of winter, after summer, after they breed, they look for places to eat and spend the winter months, the cold months. And this is their usual route. And of course, our country is kind of warm, so this is where they will look for food. Okay. Next slide, please. I wanted to show you the threatened species that we have that uses the East Asian Australasian flyway. Oh, my favorite is the black-faced spoonbill. The first record found in Manila Bay was 1903. Great, no? 1903. And then in year 2020, we were doing the Asian waterbirds census. Now the number of black-faced spoonbills in East Asia, including our country, which passes through, there is a society that monitors their population. And we are contributory to them. Lo and behold, we were cruising down Manila Bay. We saw 24 of them. Okay, 24 in the Taliptip area. We were so excited. We couldn't believe our eyes. There were 24 of them by the mangrove forest, by coastal Bulacan. And we said, we made the news. Sabi ko, wow, I saw my name again. Cinco said, Cinco said, chu. And I was so proud of that I was part of, seeing 24 black-faced spoonbill, which is what, 1% almost of the global population. Next year, we went for the survey, because usually they send the same team, same place, so you can observe 5 minutes, 10. Okay, I can go slower. We went back. We didn't see a single one of them. Why? All the mangroves were cut. Totally a mangrove forest. You can see the way it was cut. It was a slash and burn thing. And we asked the people, how come, the mangrove forest was cut? Kasi ma'am, there was an infestation of disease. Now, I don't know from the scientist's point of view, but there was an infestation. In other words, whoever was in charge of that area did not want the black-faced spoonbills to be back. So those are some of the questions that we have sometimes when you are doing a science-based survey. Right, Dr. Arlene? Next slide, please. Okay, birds of the city. Make this your checklist. Okay, look at them and see if it's in your backyard. People got interested really in bird watching during the pandemic because you have nothing else to do but look out your window. So we were holding forums, Zoom lectures, and we highlighted all these birds, okay? Even the little egret, because you can see them in the esteros and the rivers, no? I see them often in what's this, Del Monte? Del Monte, well, I think it's also Del Monte River, no? It's by Del Monte Avenue. So, interesting to know that the Eurasian tree sparrow is all over. It's in Europe, India, Asia, the Philippines. Why does it, survive across all these continents? Because it eats everything, even our everything. So usually you see them near garbage. Okay, so of course garbage has worms, rice, and all the stuff. It's locally called mayang bingi. Kasi diba it has this like Walkman thing near their ears. And the chestnut munya is the mayang pula. Before, the farmers thought that they were an infestation during harvest time. But actually, they help the farmers because they eat all the insects. And based from our experience, even when we were in Mindanao, in Sultan Kudarat, when there was this black bug infestation, we noticed there were not enough brown shrikes. It was an infestation of, I think, rice fields. And, it's it's not so pleasant because once you close your lights at night, they all fall on the floor. And they don't have a pleasant smell. And in Zamboanga, if you go down if you go through downtown during the migration season, you can see as much as 3,500 barn swallows. I don't know if there's a study with the barn swallows in relation to dengue, but they were eating mosquitoes. So I think that's their significance. Next slide, please. Okay, bird watching in malls. These are some of the activities that we have. As bird watchers, we feel that we have a responsibility to our fellow men. So, fortunately, this was organized recently and it was held at Fisher Mall. And we had one in Trinoma featuring people from our club doing lectures also in malls. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, Philippine Bird Fairs. It is the highlight activity of the Bird Club. But recently, we were doing this online, And we haven't had one since, I think, 2018, a face-to-face thing. And besides, local governments don't want to sponsor us right now because it's constantly changing and we need their support. When the club was kind of new, the UNICEF wanted to make people aware of what avian influenza is, bird flu. So they also use the club. So up to now, every so often, when we have the bird flu, we try to infuse this in our gatherings. And of course, we already have supported several local bird festivals that were spin-offs of our bird festivals held in either the province or municipalities. So we have the Katala, Ibong Dayo Festival, and the Takurong Bird Festival. That's it. Next, please. Okay, we go local. I mean, closest to our houses. We have La Mesa Eco Park. You know that it's self-sustaining. And in this park, you have two starbirds. You have the Philippine Pita and the Ashi Thrush. You will know how interested people are when even if you have a supposedly a private bird watching trip, people from the public will join you. So this is what's the result, especially the children. It seems that they have a thirst for, anything that's green, the green space, and knowledge also. And we are sometimes so amazed how they can draw exactly what they saw out of memory. I mean, it's just a few minutes, but they do that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park. We are so proud of this one because this was declared as Ramsar Site 2124. Ramsar is the Convention on Wetlands. It is a protected area. And our bird list from the Wild Bird Club served as one of the supporting data that will declare the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park as a Ramsar site. Now, currently, we already have 8. Before, we only have, Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park is the 6th. What is the flagship bird? It's the Philippine duck, because they breed there. Okay, they breed there, and the population is very vulnerable. So, 3 minutes left. So, and then one of the reasons also was the black-winged stilt. We had 1% of the global population passing through the wetland park. Next slide, please. Okay, why did I put that picture there from Manila Southwoods? They need us because we do the surveys for them to be accredited by Audubon Society in terms of environmental soundness and conservation. Their golf club is one of the Audubon certified country clubs in the world. And that is Mr. Sobre Peña himself. So we saw a man standing by, by one of the empty waterlogged places. And he was just there staring at the hundreds of night herons and egrets. And he was, you could see with his face, he was so amazed. So if businessmen were like this, I think we have a better chance for a conservation. And of course, Tagaytay Highlands, we've done collaborative work with them, coming out with calendars where their birds are located, and they listen. When we say, please do not clear this area of Kugon, because this is where the birds are, they don't. They listen. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, power plants, Suwal, and Pagbilao, they are part of Team Energy, and they are one of our major sponsors as one of the CSR. And we wouldn't come out This Wild Birds of the Philippines is one of the locally produced bird books that you can use as reference, and we're so proud of it. More questions na lang later because I have to rush. Okay, next slide, please. This is an advocacy very close to my heart, which is the Manila Bay Coastal Bulacan site. You know, in business, it's used to the max because during the wet season, during the rainy season, these are used as fish ponds. And the dry season, they are used as salt pans where they dried, you know, for salt. And I've been part of the survey team that did this since 2016 up to 2021. Before, it was my dream to work with the United Nations. Really. I even took Asian Studies in college, asked Chiki. I said, okay, I want to work in the United Nations. Of course, my mom will not allow me to go to New York or anywhere else. But at least a dream, partial dream came true when I worked with the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, doing all this survey, and Wetlands International. Because they were monitoring the bird populations of this area. And North Manila Bay is a key biodiversity area, number 25. So it has 15 hectares of original mangroves. Part of it was already destroyed because of the sightings of the black-faced spoonbills, and 315 hectares of original mudflats destroyed, giving way to further development. And I stopped there. Please research on your own of what is happening over there. As you can see, the Chinese egret with the satellite camera on its back, it was found in the salt pans. We were with, of course, Mr. Arne Jensen, my mentor, and the head of the team that surveys. He said, if the people only knew that the satellite camera behind its back is worth $10,000, it is. And we sent this photo to Taiwan and Hong Kong because they are monitoring. You know, we asked, maybe it's yours, tell us what you do with it. And of course, it's those who are in charge of the Chinese egret populations who told a comment. And the next slide, please. Okay, this is a quote from the book by Robert S. Kennedy, A Guide to the Birds of the Philippines. This was published in the year 2000. And this was already what he was saying, that the country was at the verge of an ecological meltdown. He was here quite recently. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. Mr. Kennedy was here maybe 2021. And he said we were in the verge of ecological meltdown. And you know what a meltdown is. And I think we're still continuing doing that. And it will take the international community. Well, yes, we did that. We send our data to the international community. And I hope they're making noise abroad. You know, with all these things. And Mr. Kennedy started his work as an American Peace Corps member. So he was in the 1970s. He fell in love so much with the Philippines that, you know, when he came back, he did the study of the Philippine eagle. And I hope everybody enjoyed whatever I showed you. My pride, my joy, my hardships, but rewards. Next slide, please. We are the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines. 20 years already in existence, and hopefully 20 years more of convincing people why we should conserve, protect our environment. Not only for the birds, but also for the people. What is good for the birds is good for the people, quoting Arnie Jensen. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed what I presented.
Thank you very much, Tingay. And can you believe it? I've joined the Wild Bird Club in UP. We started at NIGS and then ended up looking at some more birds in the residential area way back. So for those who would be interested to join, that's their website, birdwatch.ph. Okay, so at this point, we're still here live at the Meralco Power Tech. So by the way, for those of you, the deck, this is quite comprehensive, so you can download the presentation on womenbiz.ph. And shout out to the schools who are here, Southville International School, San Beda College, Alabang. So at this point, we still have full discussion ahead. So may I call on our team lead for this event, past chair of the Women's Business Council, CEO of Mansmith and Fielders, Ms. Chiki Escarial Go.
Thank you so much, Donna, and to Arlen and to Christina Tingay. If there's anything that we learned from the first two speakers, I think we realized how huge the issue or the subject matter is, right? We haven't even scratched the tip of the iceberg, and that's again a pun when you talk about environment, the problem of having the icebergs. But when we were putting together this event, we knew that we had to have also in the conversation the voice of government, right? Otherwise, we'd just be sharing these stories. By the way, I intend to be a birder as well and just follow Tingay and be under the sun and walk. We refuse to walk. But it's a nice idea, right? Let's all go birding. And yeah, we'll start with La Mesa Dam, etc. But these are good. And of course, learning from Dr. Arlen. So many things, no? So as I said, we will be asking the voice of government at this point. We somehow always blame the government when we talk about, may problema sa deforestation, may problema sa waste management. Kasi DENR yan eh. Diba? So, teka, tanungin natin, ano ba ginagawa talaga ng DENR? We will have a panel discussion, but first we will call our special guest this afternoon. He is currently appointed as Undersecretary for Integrated Environmental Science of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Previously, he was on secondment to the DOST, where he concurrently served as Executive Director of the DOST PCI EERD Innovation Council and officer in charge of the DOST Nuclear Research Institute. He was also a member of the panel of experts, NTPE, of the Climate Change Commission from 2012 to 2021, and he received his PhD in Environmental Science and Geology from Stanford University in 2003. To join me here up front, please welcome Dr. Carlos Primo David, or USEC CP. USEC, do you want to stay there or here? Okay. Well, I'll do a one-on-one first before I call the rest of the panel. Okay, USEC David,
Okay,
have a seat.
lalapit ako dito.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, first and foremost,
yes.
thank you, Chiki, and everybody for the invitation. Parang I feel like I'm walking into a trap here. I'm only the guy in
I was
the,
going
the
to ask you for
panel.
good news.
At the same time, no, it doesn't help that I'm following two excellent lectures, no? As well as all the commentaries about husbands and boyfriends
In
not-
relation to
not-
birds.
not being faithful to their partners. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you for being here. As I mentioned, you somehow always get the blame, but
Oh, that's right. No?
Right?
Other than being a male in the room, I'm also with government. So
is that a double whammy?
DNR, oo nga, medyo mahirap ang situation
No,
ko ngayon.
but I'd like to start, no? Positive news.
Yes.
Let's start about positive news about what DNR has been up to and against this issue on climate change. Or let's talk about the environment or the natural resources. Where are we now?
Where are we now? At the very least, what I can tell everybody is that there is a different mindset, definitely, in the DNR. And together with that different mindset are these sets of tools that we are using in order for us to manage the environment. So it's a totally different approach, if I may say so.
Is that because technology has taken over?
Technology, social media, engagement with partners, no? So we are no longer cloistered and doing our thing on our own, no? So we partner with the private sector and civil society organizations.
Okay, and this social media thing, how far have we gone for DNR?
Not so far. That's why I was talking to Donna May, no, a couple of days ago.
Your student?
Ako, yes, papatulong ako ng social media campaign namin.
Which brings me to the question:
Yeah.
if there's one social media message that you'd like, that DENR would like to deliver out there, and we do have a lot of students listening in, and of course also government. What message might that be? Where do we start when we want to communicate this effort on climate action?
Where do we start? We should know what we have at the moment. No, sabi nga ni Sec Tony, we should measure what we treasure. And what we treasure are our natural resources, which includes water, biodiversity, forest, even mineral resources. We have to know where they are and how much do we have. So we measure what we treasure.
Exactly, and the birds are being measured at least.
Of course.
Okay, and those are good things, you know. And again, the role of government, and I think people are interested to find that out, no?
Yeah.
How are we working closely? For example, the role of the local government in the efforts to even the birds, protection of the birds and the environment around them. How is DENR working with the other government institutions for this action?
Siguro if we talk about climate change in particular, we are losing the battle in terms of encouraging everybody to pitch in, what they can in terms of solving this climate crisis. And I feel that the issue really is that we are not connecting with everybody. Like any other issue, you will have to look for the connection on an individual level. For example, I'm a scientist, by training, and therefore when you talk to me about the climate crisis, it would always have to be statistics and numbers. So that's what I respond to. For some, they would respond more to emotions and being spiritual, connection with the environment. For Attorney Lorna, it would probably be equity in terms of countries emitting more carbon dioxide, and yet those that emit less actually are suffering more. No? Ito yung concept ng loss and damage in all the international fora. No? So there's some imbalance there. No? It's also an imbalance, I would say, in terms of equity, that countries today, because we are now all conscious with climate change, that we are now being limited in terms of emissions as well, and we have to switch to renewable energies, which is more expensive. And yet, the other countries, first world countries, have had 100 years of using coal and oil, and that actually fueled their development. And now our development may be stifled by the fact that, okay, let's slow down in the use of coal and oil. So there's some inequity there.
Yeah, you mentioned something about how people want to approach this issue of climate change. So for example, Dr. Arlen talked about the atmosphere and all these things.
Yeah.
How should we, and the connection somehow, you mentioned about numbers and understanding emissions. Some people can't relate to that.
No.
I mean, what might be that level that we should, how do we communicate at what level?
It depends, And I think for this particular gathering, because most of the people in Zoom and those here in the venue are business leaders, therefore we have to connect with them at the business level. So I'd like to talk to you about the business of protecting the environment. In other words, is protecting the environment an expense, or is there actually profit that can be gained by individuals, by companies, and by the country by protecting our environment?
The
And
business
I say yes. No.
Would you
So-
like the slide to
Yes.
come
So
in,
let's
please?
look at
I
the
think
slides here.
we have
So-
something on the business of environment. That's very,
Yes,
it's very
please.
nice to, okay.
Okay. One of our assets is, of course, our natural forest. Now, we have 7 million hectares of forest. It's dwindling, and this should be valuated, meaning it has a peso value. Okay? On top of all the benefits that we get in terms of biodiversity, watershed protection, clean air, etc., it actually has a monetary value. Number one, right now, many of your audience may have heard of carbon offsetting. Okay, so there are companies internationally that would want to strive for what we call as being carbon neutral, meaning what they would have emitted, no, through their industries, they would have to have an equal amount of protection and carbon sequestration. And one of the easiest carbon sequestration programs would be reforestation. I was just talking to a delegation of South Koreans, and they said, and I asked them, why are you here? We want to plant trees in your country for offsetting. And my initial reaction was, why don't you plant trees in your country? And you know what they told me? They said, we no longer have any land, no? It's all filled up by forests.
Wow.
And now they see that we have the land area, no, denuded forests, that they can plant and get credit for carbon offsetting. Other than carbon offsetting, there is now also what is called as the carbon market. You can actually sell carbon, no? In other words, you can sell forests for the benefits that it provides in terms of sequestering carbon.
When you say sell, I mean,
Sell.
who sells? The
we
government.
sell to those countries that
Ah.
are actually emitting more carbon dioxide, because at the end of the day, we are one planet, and anything that you emit, no, wherever you are in the world, can be offset by trees that are planted elsewhere.
Okay, got it.
So just to give some numbers, because we have business people here, it's actually at this point $58 per ton of carbon sequestered. So $58 is something like 3,000 pesos. And how many trees would equate to 1 ton of carbon sequestered? It's about 30 trees. So every year with your 30 trees, you actually can earn $58.
Is there actually a program for that?
There is a market,
There is a
global
market, but
for it.
how is that course? How do you actually sell? Is it really a concept of selling? Or
It is exactly.
there
wh-
is a
what you said.
monetary
Yes,
value.
no, it's like the stock market. no?
Right.
They're
Ah.
planting trees over there. I can buy your carbon, no, to offset my own emission.
is this a government-to-government thing? No, it's private.
It's private, but we want in DNR to have our own
So it's a
carbon market.
Business opportunity. Just 30 trees.
It is a business
30
opportunity.
trees. Okay.
So just moving forward, the issue naman with reforestation is that it's actually quite difficult. Okay? Not many people know that when you start with the seed of a tree, no, not all of those seeds will germinate and become a big tree. Okay? Less than 10% of those seeds will actually be viable. But no, we have developed some new technologies wherein we gather seeds from natural forests, we coat them, no, with all the necessary nutrients. So much so that when you plant it, even if the soil around the seed does not have the necessary nutrients, because it's coated with those nutrients, it actually increases its germination rate. Okay? So
It's called fortification.
fortification, and now We are now open for business for anyone who is interested to do reforestation efforts. It is now much easier with this kind of technology. Okay.
And these seeds are endemic to the.
Yes,
that's the plan,
everything
right? Yes,
is
everything,
endemic. And just to give you some examples here, this is called malapapaya, a tree. And on top is the untreated malapapaya seeds. When they germinate, they look like that. When they're treated, with that particular coating, you can see the difference in terms
That's
of
right.
their roots. No, so some numbers, because I'm a numbers guy, so I like looking at percentages of germination and so on and so forth. Now it's much easier to grow trees. No, that's the entire point. This one, not many people know this, but this is endemic as well in the Philippines. We call it locally as lapnisan, but maybe some of you know of this as agar wood. Agar wood is a certain tree that when you inoculate it with a specific type of fungi, it actually reacts to that fungi by giving off a natural resin that is fragrant, which is used in many of our perfumes right now. So super expensive type of resin. And this is endemic here in the Philippines. So yet another possible business, because the market for resins, for fragrances is actually huge. And a lot of our endemic plants and trees, like some of our flowers, for example, they don't have it in other countries, so they have no choice but to buy it from here.
And DNR has a program to disseminate all these seeds.
That's correct.
Okay.
So there's a program in DNR where we provide you for free, in most cases, all these seedlings. There's also a program wherein we can provide you a parcel of government land for you to start planting. Okay? And therefore, now we are moving into that realm wherein you are doing good for the environment by planting trees, but at the same time, you are profiting.
And that's the key.
I think that's the
Yeah,
key for
yes.
many business people,
Well,
at least.
incentivization always works.
That's right.
And money
Finally,
is-
no, because we
Yan
talked
na.
about birds, let's talk about trees. No, in terms of ornamental trees, all those trees that you're looking at right now are all endemic. They are Filipino trees.
All right.
So the first one that you're looking at there looks like a cherry blossom.
That's right.
It's called the Palawan cherry
that's
blossom.
okay, that's the Palawan cherry
Okay, and we
blossom.
should be cultivating that. The second one, and I have my código here because I'm not a forester really. Okay, the second one, if you like it, it's called the Balitbitan. No, nice canopy and light green things that you see there are actually not flowers but the leaves. The leaves, no. And the third one there, purple tree, is called the Salinggugon, also endemic. And when it flowers, you get that natural purple color.
Nice.
Those at the bottom, those are falcata. We use that for our wood industry. And next to it, everyone knows this is the eucalyptus rainbow tree, which is also endemic.
It
So
looks
eucalyptus is not just found in Australia. We actually have our own.
Where do you
Eucalyptus
see that
tree.
rainbow? Where is that?
That's the reason why we have to plant it,
Okay.
because we're no longer seeing it.
You have to be an
Yes.
avatar to see it.
Oh.
It looks like an avatar, right? You see it?
Where in Ayala
Oh, see,
Triangle.
there you go.
No, but we need more of these trees. I
Yes,
think.
yes, yes.
I think.
ATC, they have it.
Okay, there you go. And the
Okay.
point here is that while we propagate these, we benefit the environment, and at the same time, there is profit that can be made.
Yeah. Definitely, it's awareness. Where do we find these trees? It's beautiful. Don't we want more of it? We have the birds as well available everywhere else, but we don't know these things, right? So I think it really starts with conversations such as this. Is there anything else on your
I think
slide?
that's about it.
Okay, thank you
Yes.
so much. Amazing things. There's a lot of things that definitely we can blame the DNR for. But we're seeing, no, they're doing a lot of things, and there's a business opportunity as well. And that's the best way to have a tipping point. If we want people to change, it helps that they can make money out of it. We still have an economic problem that we have to deal with. But thank you so much. At this point, I'll call the rest of the speakers to join Yusek David here and myself. May I call on Arlen and Tingay as well to join me here for a brief panel discussion. Are there questions from Zoom? You can, I believe I will find them at the screen in front of me. If not, I do have Dr. Arlen. Tingay, can you join us here, please? All right, so we did have a very interesting topics to be discussed. Ayaw mo sa gitna. Sige, mas maganda nga yung picture dyan, nakakapayat eh. Anyway, so it's a very interesting discussion, a lot of diversity here. But I'd like to start. I was supposed to ask them for a 1-minute opener, but I guess they've already said they're long pieces. But I'd like to start with an agree or disagree. And again, these statements came from the registration. No? They already asked ahead of time. I'd like to start with Tingay. And the question, it was a question, I made it into a statement. Planting trees is not enough anymore to fix global warming. What do you think about that? Agree or disagree?
I totally disagree. Wait, your question's kind of
It's not
ambiguous.
enough. So is it
Oh.
enough or not enough
Well,
to
it
fix
is no longer enough.
no longer enough?
Because we also have the topic of Dr. Arlen here of garbage. But as a city dweller, I tried to fill also my garden with trees. Eventually, when they grew, it became a problem. Because I was already encroaching my neighbors.
Yeah.
And, you know, Meralco is also there to cut it off, you know, just before the typhoon. But I do believe, no, you have to manage it.
Yeah, okay.
But
And this is a question, I think, that comes from the idea that climate change and trees. You know, and
Yes.
it's how people associate it at a certain level.
and it has to be native trees.
Yeah, native trees, endemic,
Native
right?
trees.
Okay.
It's more of a problem if you get all those invasive species.
All right. Oh, noted, DNR, right?
They know that.
They know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Tingay. A question or a agree-disagree statement for Yusek David. The government should be held liable for poor implementation of order to the public. And I guess in terms of climate change and solid waste management.
For implement, of course, no. Government is liable. But it's not only government, I should say. Everyone is, quote unquote, to blame. But definitely we're trying to do it differently this time.
And it takes a village to raise a child, so to speak. And for Arlen, informal settlers along creeks and tributaries are the main contributors to garbage or water pollution. So ayan, again, a common thing that people blame the informal settlers.
I don't think so. I don't think so that they are the main contributors to the to waterways pollution.
Okay, because
We conducted a research on Estero de Paco in 2009. Number one, waterways are transboundary resource. So they move from one place to the other. And if you throw garbage in the upstream, it will all go down to the downstream. No? Well, definitely there are informal settlers along the way, along the waterways, but then can we really blame them? Garbage collection does not reach this area because they have narrow alleys, narrow streets, and they have to they have to be conscious of the collection time. So aside from that, collection schedule, transboundary resource. Then we also have to take note of the winds. No? So there are litters along the way, and the pagkahumangin, lahat yun mapupunta rin sa waterways. So, we should not blame them. O, kawawa naman din sila.
Those who have the access to better waste management
Yes.
and don't use it
Yes.
are worse to blame, right? Anybody from the audience would like to ask a question? Attorney Lorna? And then, yes. Microphone, please. Dyan. Lorna, and then, yeah, okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Because being developer, we build like mid-rise, high-rise. Where in the rooftop, we can avail that to be an urban garden or farming. Will DNR support and give the program? Because I'm sure all now, because of the COVID, after the pandemic, everybody's aware to do the plantito on the roof deck and in their balcony. So is there any program that we can attach with so that Women Biz Council can lead? Thank you.
A good question. There should be, if there is none at the moment. If it's for rooftop gardens, I wouldn't think you'd want big trees like these, no? Some more shrubs and what at the very least we should give you, huh? Farming.
Urban
Oh,
farming.
definitely.
Rooftop.
Definitely for farming, vertical farming, hydroponics, no? Every time that you are able to produce your own food, that is reducing the amount of transport of food, no? So there should be a policy on that. Not with DNR, maybe DA.
DA,
Department of Agriculture.
for urban farming.
But it just so happened that I'm also into hydroponics. We have a research center in UP Diliman, so we can also help you with that.
Is it DNR provides the seeds, right?
Not
Not
for
for-
crops.
not for crops.
For trees. DA, yes.
Is that your role?
Not DNR, but UP.
UP. Okay.
Course.
There's an urban planning
Course
Course.
in TESDA.
TESDA.
Yeah.
Mm.
For free. And they have it online.
All right. Okay. And Rose Ong is
Yeah.
available in Wilcon.
Yes, it will be available. It comes in small, medium, and large. So you don't need to I mean, you just plug it in. It's very simple to use.
For the hydroponics.
It's hydroponic, and
Okay.
then the water is recyclable. It can be organic also. You can use it indoor. For indoor, it has LED light. And then if you want it outdoor, you just take out the LED light.
Okay. So there are
It's like a vertical
materials available already. It
Yeah.
used to be only available online. You have to know if you're getting
Before,
it. But
they used to do it yourself, right?
Right.
But now, now it will be available.
okay, maybe
soon.
Wilcon can have a small study center as well to train people for free.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we
so
can.
they buy
yeah.
more anyway, right?
Actually, regarding yung so I have a question on solid waste management. I think one of the issues now is that there's no available, access for businesses, no? Like, not all businesses, they know how to do it. Like, there were some municipalities wherein you have to partner with government, with the local government, but I don't know if they're capable. Not all are capable of doing that, no? Because I think there's a law that says that all landfills would be eradicated already, no? So I think that's one of the issue of business as well. And then on the plastic, the zero plastic. So how are we going to do that? I think government should have a program. Government should, intervene also and provide education to business, not only in forums like this, no?
That question actually came out also. So, Arlen, it's about, what do you think about that single waste thing?
Definitely.
Single use, sorry.
Yeah. Definitely, we wanted to reduce the use of single-use plastics. So, number one, it came from non-renewable resource and then non-biodegradable. And so it will be in the environment for a long period of time, but then how are we going to eliminate it? All right. For the businesses, well, our initiative in Mother Earth Foundation, we have this Awana Zero Express, where we collaborated with Sari Sari stores. We have in Navotas. So we will provide commodities, household commodities, and then the customers will bring their own refillable containers, and they're going to buy these commodities in small amounts. So instead of buying sachets, so they will make use of these refillable containers. Now, when you talk of solid waste management for businesses, well, we have already initiatives in the business sector who are into recycling. So, though they also collaborate with the NGOs to further improve these recycling activities.
Yusek?
The issue with plastic is a little bit deeper than what we know of it right now. No? If we start to blame consumers only, then that consumer, us, should have the options in the market of not having any plastics. But there are none at the moment. And therefore, this year, we rolled out a program called the EPR, which means Extended Producers Responsibility, putting the responsibility as well to those that are putting out products in the market, and not just the consumers being responsible of their waste. So what does the EPR say? It says that the companies like Jollibee and P&G, Procter & Gamble, Nestle, you are also responsible of the plastic products that you have put out in the market. And for the first year, they should recover 20% of all the plastic products that they have sold this year. And then it increases.
Which
year
means
on
they
year.
have to look into their own packaging businesses,
That's right. Yeah,
But who's going to monitor that?
DNR.
Ah.
So they reduce their plastic. At the same time, they report how much plastic they produced and then put out in the market and how much they recovered at
Do
the
they
end
get
of the year.
incentivized or penalized?
There's a penalty for not being able to recover plastic that they have produced. But at this point, Filipinos kasi do not react well with penalties,
Right.
more incentives. So lots of incentives
That's
now
right,
for
that's
them.
right. And it's an issue if you realize all our online orders are all bubble wrapped and just thrown away. So I again, issues that we have to face at the moment. Yes, Attorney Lorna.
Yeah. First, thank you so much to our speakers, and really was an eye-opener for all of us here, especially our students who are listening. We have online students from many schools. So, when we talk about climate action, because that's what Women's Business Council, Women Biz is doing now, climate action, and at the forefront is our committee, and we want to make this a series. But that must be partnered, climate action must be partnered with climate justice. And on top of that, what you said, we must incentivize business, climate finance. My question therefore here is, what are we doing about this? For instance, mention was here na wala na tayong mangroves. Wala na tayong, you saw many logs in Davao. So wala na yung mga birds natin. Ano. So illegal loggers are still here. Illegal mining is still here. What is the DNR or government doing in terms of these big violators? Are they untouchable because they support our politicians? So there must be, even if you say penalties, penalties will not scare people. Because you go after the small guys. We should go after the big guys. Make them exhibit A for compliance. So that's climate justice. And climate finance. Like for instance, Wilcon. Wilcon is good behavior. Wilcon is an example of our good behavior. Yeah, you see, they're partnering with Meralco on the solar panels, etc., etc. And I think for business to comply, you cannot, kasi a corporation naman is an artificial entity, no? Ang matatakot dyan yung president tsaka yung management. But wala naman na jail na corporate na presidente or management, no? My sense here is, let's not talk about jailing people na lang. Let's give them fiscal incentives like a tax. You were talking earlier, Yusek, about carbon credits. That's a good way. Or carrot and stick approach. You incentivize. You give tax rebates or tax for companies that are compliant or for companies that are creative in complying with sustainable development goal of the environment. My last, I'm sorry, parang nag-lecture na ako. But my last, because I also sit in the World Wildlife Fund Board of Advisors, and we are zero tolerance for plastic. But comment also, please, that this is anti-poor.
Antay.
It is anti-poor kasi yung poor natin pupunta sa sari-sari store, tingi-tingi. Hindi, ang binibili kasi hindi naman nila afford. Pati margarine nga, butter bibili ng slice by slice, no? Yung sinasabi niyo po na magdala ng container, hindi sila maka-afford ng container So, I mean, sometimes our policies are far from reality. The reality that our people are poor. Anyway, back to you. Back to you. And thank you, Yusek.
Yes.
Thank you, Yusek, for being with us. I'm so happy that our government leaders are now more good-looking.
I knew you'd
And
say that.
more intelligent.
Yes.
Younger.
May I comment on this? Okay, so our bird club is part of the Green Coalition. You wouldn't believe it, but the Philippines has one of the best plastic management laws, yeah, on this. What is being said by my red tag? Usually, those in the green, sometimes I'm so scared. Most of them are, yeah, red tag. Sabi ko, I don't think I will be, no? I don't look like one. But at least, that's right. And we made a stand already. We will join you, but we will not join rallies because we don't like the heat. Well, the heat of the sun, not the heat of the issue, okay? So one of them said that the responsible thing to do there is, since we are a sachet economy, is that companies or corporations that use this method of packaging should buy back all these sachets. I'm a Coke drinker, and I will support Coca-Cola because they have this program of buying back all their bottles and cans. So this is what they're saying. Corporations should be given the task of being more responsible, on this. It's not being anti-poor or anything, because they said that sachet is the worst kind of waste, because it's mixed, right? And one thing I'm afraid of, just an input on this, is pyrolysis. The burning of plastic.
Incineration.
Okay, they use plastic for fuel. And some of our lawmakers are advocating that, which is sad, right? And this will lead to, you said that they will be eventually closing landfills, no? That we have. But we are building landfills in the sky. So it's a food for thought. And yes, I admire, I'm so afraid for you, Sec, David, Because, every time they have somebody who's very intelligent, easy to talk with, to speak with in the DANR, they usually remove them. And that is based from experience. So I hope he stays and fight for, what we're fighting for.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been fighting, but they always remove all these people. Okay, that's just
Okay,
food for thought.
one question from Eileen.
Yes. Hello, and thank you so much for the insightful panel and speakers we have. Yes.
Chairperson of Women
Yes,
Biz.
chairperson, let's be accurate. We have PCW here with us on the title. I'm an avid mountain climber, and I'm sure that our youth here who's listening right now will also, I would say, sympathize with me. First of all, may I ask you, Sec David, where does the environmental fee go every time that we climb a mountain? Where does it go? First question. Second is that when you go up in the mountains, for Dr. Yes, Ariel. We see that a lot of the Highlanders would just dump their trash in the mountains, and when it rains, it all gets washed down. And I fear that this kind of environment. I mean, I've been climbing mountains for decades, and it never changed all these years. What can we do to help the people on segregation? Because it takes, if you're up in the summit and you have a house and you are in a barangay, it takes too much time and effort for you to get even to rent a horse to bring down the very heavy garbage. Maybe we can do something about that. The Highlanders, who's also causing the damage in the environment, even if they don't mean to, because they live in a faraway place. And then for Gingay, yes, for mountain climbers, perhaps we can do a bird watching at, a tandem. Because we see a lot of birds up there and we just see, wow, ang ganda ng ibon. Pero hindi namin alam kung anong klase siya. We can train our guides on bird watching, what kind of, the simple maya, what it is about and how it affects the environment. I think these are really natural, we have the youth here. And then please, for the students, don't throw your trash. I see so much, yung mga ng candy, kahit isang lang ng candy sa trek is already very, very bad. And I would say even plastic bottles that you can see in, litter. And we have to do a mountain cleanup once a year because there's so much trash underneath the grass.
Okay, this is a concern from a mountaineer. So anybody want to comment?
Yes. Well, we've started already several years ago with UP. The UP Mountaineers, before you can join our organization, since I don't know who's the president now of the organization.
I'm from the De La Salle Mountaineers Club, sorry.
Okay, I'm also from De La Salle University, but anyway, they've already started this. Before you can enter the organization with UP Mountaineers, you have to undergo a bird watching trip with us, okay? With regards to garbage segregation, well, it started in my own home. I told them, even the help, I will do the garbage, okay? Don't, kasi diba they get so offended if you do their work. No, I will do the garbage. So, proudly, I only throw garbage 3 times a week. And then eventually, I saw them already following my example. And my garbage is mostly, packaging, right? Food packaging. Because I don't know how to deal with them. Food, I make them into compost. And the driver of Chiki will attest that I have a very beautiful garden. My plants are thriving well. But now, I notice that the help is following my example. Because I kind of check, the size of garbage they throw. And I'm so proud that coming from a huge community, I throw only like one, those, it's recycled pa, I use it several times. The sando bag, one grocery bag of garbage. While I see my neighbors like, You know, it's Rubbermaid pa, ha, the big ones, the big garbage cans. And they said, oh my God, where did all this garbage come from? And we're just the same household.
Probably wrapping from all these online orders.
Oh, well, yes. No. So you see, it's by example. So I think what we should do is to really teach the community. It's so simple, no? And I know that there is somebody who just collects plastics.
Yeah.
Ants something organization.
So,
and
so
they
there
buy that.
are
Thank you.
initiatives, and already, as Tingay said, we have to start with ourselves. We do have 1 minute left for. Is it? No. Just we'll take your later na lang. Yes,
Sige po.
Christine.
For
From
USEC
PCW.
CPS, I'm also from the government, from the Philippine Commission on Women. As you can see, that women here have so many concerns and that we do have a voice. I would just like to raise to DNR if women organizations like Women Biz can be part of different committees or technical working groups in the DNR para we can also share our voices and our concerns that are coming from our hearts as mothers, sisters, or grandmothers. Kasi like organizations like PSF and GCF, sir, yung Green Climate Fund and the People Survival Fund, women are not really that represented. Also, although PCW is part of it, our voice is mainly on the technical aspect of identifying gender issues and what concerns are being addressed by the project proposal. So I suggest that women organizations should be part of these committees and should have a voice po in government.
Okay, game. I'll take you up on that offer.
USEC, if you want to get things done, you have to talk to the women. Anyway, we have 1 minute left. I won't be able to take in questions anymore. I would like, however, to leave the last word to our panelists. How do we move forward? What do you think should be the tipping point of where do we start to make things happen for our environment? We'll start with Dr. Arlen, and then Tingay, and then USEC.
Well, I think we have to start in our own home. As I have said in my presentation, solid waste begins at home, and definitely it will also end in our own homes. No? So we will just be more responsible in the commodities that we buy. We have to be conscious of our legal frameworks. Well, we have our legal frameworks, but then not all of the households are conscious of this. No? So we just start small in our own homes. Segregation, and then next would be from the home, then the community, barangay, and then larger local government units.
Thank you, Arlen.
Okay, I also agree with Dr. Arlen about that. And like I said, everybody's a bird watcher. Start from your gardens. Now, about women empowerment. When I was in Malaysia on one of the bird fairs 10 years ago, one of the Malaysian students asked and approached the Philippine booth. He said, "You have so many women bird watchers. You are so empowered." I said, I counted, oh yeah, we're 80%, of the entire delegation. This does not happen in our country. So I'm so proud of you, all of you. More women power. Thank you.
What women can do. Thank you, Tingay. And last
Okay.
but not the least,
If there's anything I learned from this forum is that DNR needs to partner with
Yes.
the Women's Business Council. So let's do that. I'll take you up on that offer. Ang dami niyong pwedeng gawin with
Yes.
us.
yes.
So let's do that.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you again, Arlen, Tingay, USEC CP David, and thank you to everyone who watched with us. I'm sure that you probably learned not just a thing or two, but a lot more. Enough, I hope, to keep you awake tonight, or at least to make you uncomfortable enough to do something, and hopefully to make this place a better world for all of us, and as a grandmother for the next generations. Let's keep the conversations going, and more importantly, let's start really caring for the environment, for each other, and for the future. This is what Pope Francis said in Laudato Si. We are integrated. It is a communal responsibility. It is not just cosmetic. It has to be a fundamental shift to make an effort to care for the environment. So once again, thank you so much for everyone, for your questions, and for our participants, to our panelists, and to everyone here on site and online. I bring you back now to our host, Donna.
Thank you very much, Tricky and Doc CP, Tingay, and Dr. Arlen. Wow, full circle for me. And for everybody on Zoom, those who attended, especially the students, we will be issuing e-certificates. So please flash the QR code. We would like to get your feedback, your questions as to more forums that we can produce for you. This will be our guide to further improve our sessions. And also, please remember #WomenBizClimateAction. I am Donna Lina, and thank you to our engineer Cecil Domingo for hosting us here at the Meralco Power Tech, live here in Pasig City. Hopefully, when we walk out, we will see some birds. And last, plugging for Mountaineers, Responsible Mountaineering, AMC. My mountaineering group is also having a mountaineering training for mountaineering, responsible mountaineering. I'll take up on that thing, guy. And thank you very much. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Photo op session next. So thank you to all the students on Zoom. See you on our next sessions. Thank you. Okay, so the formal photo session here, and Sir CP, you know who to talk to, the active women of Women Biz. Yung mag-suggest po daw dito, siya po yung gagawa. Okay, so we'll have the formal photo session. Yes, and our honored guest,